Environment is one of the first things that we need to take into account.
It's not just our own mind shift, it's, insurance.
If I didn't know or know all the information that I have now in my hands, I would say I'm losing my mind.
Your respiratory rate or your resting heart rate, these are great indicators that tell you quite a bit about who you are. Welcome back, everyone. Today's guest is helping shape what the future of longevity looks like. Not just through science, but through the way it is delivered, experienced, and scaled. Paulina Mercader is the CEO for the GCC region of the Longevity Suite, one of Europe's leading longevity brands, where she is leading its expansion across the Middle East, including the launch of a precision medicine and women's longevity clinic in Riyadh. With more than 2 decades of experience across luxury, hospitality, healthcare, wellness, and longevity, she has developed a unique perspective on what truly drives lasting behavior. She believes the future of healthcare is not only about better medicine, but about creating experiences that people actually want to return to. Her work focuses on preventative health, operational excellence, women's health, and adapting global longevity concepts to the unique cultural landscape of the Gulf. Now, today we are going beyond supplements, biomarkers, and biohacking to explore what it really takes to build a healthier society. Paulina, welcome to the podcast. So happy to have you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely, it's such a pleasure. This is a topic that I think we're both passionate about, and we constantly, kind of preach and talk about prevention, about root causes, instead of focusing on disease and intervention a little bit too late. Do you find that do we do enough basically to help eradicate these root causes that we've been aware of for decades, maybe, about how it's fit? Let me give you an example. We walk into a supermarket right now and we still see aisles and aisles of stuff that are literally targeted at kids, with stuff that are completely unhealthy. Is it too early? What is happening with us and with the environment that you're involved in? Are we making steps towards properly eradicating root causes?
A very interesting question, and I think this is one of the biggest challenge that myself found when it comes to translate a longevity model from Europe into the GCC culture and region. I think we're falling short. We have done amazing progress in the past years, but I think that, as you mentioned now, this goes beyond the doors and the 4 walls of our clinic. This goes more about getting involved with the authorities of the locality where we are opening our centers, to getting more involved in a cross-disciplinary approach, to maybe create interesting partnerships between different clinics or different entities that help us to enrich this ecosystem. Environment is one of the first things that we need to take into account. To give you an example, for our clinic in Saudi, when we decided to open a female-only longevity clinic, we did a very thorough research about what, out of the 12 longevity hallmarks, which ones are the most impacted in the female in Saudi. And obviously, we have a business, business and a longevity model from Italy, from Milano, but does that model works and will create the same impact that it has in Milano than in Riyadh? And we find out that no, there are a lot of differences. Culturally speaking, we all know, for example, in Saudi, they are night livers, right? They go to bed so late, they have dinner so late, and that's something that we won't change. Correct? So we cannot come and say... It's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing. So we need to be also smart to understand what are our limitations and what can we really implement that will cause an impact and will create a longevity pathway with substance. So in this case, you need to involve different parties. You need to create alliances with different vendors, laboratories, hospitals, doctors, travel agencies, governmental offices. So this goes beyond our 4 doors in our center. So we need to be more conscious about the importance of create this holistic approach. There is not only the holistic between the different medical practices. Holistic, I mean the ecosystem within the locality.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. And I find that there's like a little bit of a gated kind of approach to longevity and health at the moment, because it seems to me that certain places are targeting people that can afford preventative health rather than for everyone else.
Yes.
Are you viewing that also as a challenge for this region? Is this something that you are trying to resolve?
Definitely, democratizing longevity is something that I would love to be able to devote more of my time. Right now, actually, I was reading a book, and I have it here. If I'm not, let me show you. I don't know if you've seen this. So this book literally is giving the directions or the directions of how to really cascade and make longevity more accessible. And within
Just say
that,
the title for everyone,
yeah,
please, so just in case
yes,
someone wants to review it.
it's Healthy Longevity Policies and Practices by Elie editor.
Oh, nice, very good.
Yes. So it's literally the content is quite interesting, but it's not something that we ignore, right? So the first thing is that we as clinics, are we collaborating with laboratories or in any research that could bring more substance or could really create an impact? I will give you an example. I recently contacted a genetist in Riyadh. She's been working with the government for 12 years. She knows from A to C the Arab genome. We all know that most of the genetic tests have been tested in Western genomes and not the Arab genome, because the Arab genome study is relatively new. So together, along with a laboratory that we're collaborating for the DNA test, we're literally planning to maybe start tracking what are the genes based on her knowledge, her experience, that it really works for us to track and not just go for the general one that has been tested in Western cohorts. So things like that is our responsibility as clinics, right? To see how we can leverage the information that we have, how we can collaborate and bring more substance to the table, and how we can really enrich the ecosystem of longevity for our clinics and the government and the community.
Amazing, amazing. And do you see a future in the near future where that comes to fruition? Do you see it sooner rather than later, or is it something that still needs a little bit of work for us?
I think the predicament right now is that our industry has become a big business, very profitable business. So in order to do this democratization, obviously it would be, and the master I'm studying right now, it mentions clearly that the most efficient and scalable longevity interventions are the ones that can be repeated constantly, because you need to track periodically, and that you can do on different cohorts and are not invasive. So we all know that nowadays in our field there are a lot of therapies, a lot of technologies that are very profitable, but are very far away from really deliver a real outcome. So it's a predicament. I think that ethics will play a key component to see if we will really evolve on that direction, towards that direction. And the interest not only from governments, but also from the ones who have the responsibility and are working in this industry.
Yeah, so it's not just our own mind shift. It's insurance. It's legislations. It is the way things are. And I'm obviously, we're very fortunate to live in a part of the world where these move quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, they're early movers in so many areas, including creating the mandate for longevity recently. That is kind of be regulating everything in this space, which is, other countries have not even near that yet, which is amazing for us. And you mentioned, things that are trackable, and obviously data is huge when it comes to prevention. But do you find that we have too much of that? Like, there isn't anyone now that doesn't have a wearable. Your bed tracks you, your watches, your rings, there's a multitude of tests that you could do on all sorts of fronts. And it seems that it is another sort of hype or a thing that makes us feel better because we've done it, but we're not actually putting the effort towards working on our actual health, which happens in the micro decisions that we do on a day-to-day basis, right? So it's more about how we live our lives rather than just, I mean, measuring and testing and tracking are all super important, but they work well, or they work best, I should say, when we do when we focus on our micro decisions of how we live our day-to-day lives. So do you think, the more data, the incredible amount of data that we have at the moment, are we just simply measuring our decline more accurately, or are we really using that information in order for us to improve our own health and prevent future complications?
Look, I think, no, I think, I'm sure. I mean, data without a clear, actionable plan is just trash, correct? And I will give you an example. In 2017, I met a doctor, and I'm quite sure you might know him, Dr. Federico Bonson. I met him in our country, in Mexico, 2015. I was working in Grand Hyatt. I was not yet involved with healthcare or health resorts. And he came to me and he showed me a very curious product, that it was a DNA test. First time in my life I heard about it. And he explained me about how with this could help us to understand more your health, what are you prone, and to create like a lifestyle intervention for you. That was in 2015. I did the test. I did the test on my son. Did I leverage the information? No. Till now. So I think with Whoop, with Aura, with all these wearables right now, first of all, for those like me who are not physicians, right, it's very complicated for us to really understand what these biomarkers are throwing at us. And also to be able to with my Whoop happens to me all the time, right? With my HRT, with my hormones, with my period, I have a lot of information, but I don't know how to leverage that on my favor. So we really need to have a guidelines, right? We need to have, or someone who guides us, a doctor, a physician, a nutritionist, a longevity coach, whatever you want to call it, but we need to be guided, because if not, it will be only just more information, will create anxiety, maybe depression, or maybe we will become hypochondriacs, because we're seeing all these biomarkers throwing a lot of information, but we really don't know what it means.
And it seems that service providers are competing for the amount of biomarkers that they can provide you,
Yes.
You get a test for 200, 250, 300.
Yes.
Who can do more biomarkers, But then it's really how much value does it add to me? And I try to simplify these things, even with the simplest of things that you could get from a basic wearables, such as your respiratory rate, or your HRV, or your resting heart rate. Okay. These are great indicators that tell you quite a bit about who you are. And we don't have to enter into that right now, but there are ways for sure, especially if you're working with a professional, in order to simplify things and really focus on what truly matters. What we said earlier, and what you said so eloquently also, is about these, the focusing on what really moves the needle when it comes to your health. Now, you mentioned that you used to work in hospitality, which is, this is very interesting for me, because obviously this space is growing so much, and hospitality is this is where, healthcare is kind of moving a little bit. What surprises you the most when you moved from hospitality into healthcare? What motivated you? What is it that made you want to do this move?
I think it's in my DNA. My father is a doctor. He's specialized in sports medicine. So I was involved when he was working with the tennis players and with NASCAR in Mexico. So I was very involved into this. I mean, although I never played tennis nor practicing at all, but I think it's in my DNA. Also for me was important, when you have so much noise, I got this curiosity to understand and being able to discern, right, from the information that I'm getting on daily basis. So I wanted to know, because, and I also noticed something, there was a shift in the people priorities. When I started my career in hospitality, in wellness, the spa or the wellness center was just an amenity, right? It was a nice to have for the hotel. If you were lucky, you have one or two guests visiting your center. It was more like for these super niche luxury people who can pay for these extra perks during their stay. But then I start seeing like how this became, okay, for a hotel to be able to get the 5 stars, you need to have a spa. Okay, so now it's a mandatory thing to be considered luxury hospitality. And then it moved when
Right.
people become more conscious. And then the biggest shift came after pandemic.
Right.
After pandemic was like people was more aware about the importance of taking care of their health. I was very lucky because before the pandemic, I was already working in one of the most prestigious health resorts in Spain, Shah Wellness Clinic. And when I saw the potential, and I know it's going to sound super corny, but the real impact that you can have in people's life for just 1 week, they just need to give you 1 week, and it's not that you will change their lives in 7 days. You will change their mindset because you
Right.
will educate them, you will
You
explain
put them
them.
on a path, right?
Exactly, you will make them more aware,
Yeah.
more conscious. So that's why
Yeah.
these health resorts they do. Whenever you see the day I came out feeling like amazing, yes, you might gonna feel amazing because you were doing fasting or dieting and working out, things that you don't usually do, correct? But I think what it makes them feel more amazed after their stay is the education they're getting and the awareness they're getting while they're staying there.
Yeah, yeah, and then, they take with them a few things that hopefully keeps them on the path. But
Correct.
unfortunately, our geography can also dictate how
Yeah.
we treat our own health. When you travel for a week, you do things very differently than when you are at home.
Yeah.
When you're outside of your routine. The problem is that when you go back, you can easily fall back into your routine. And
Yeah.
this is where the follow-up, the having a professional that you said earlier, and a lot of these services that I'm sure that you're involved in too, are not ending when you leave,
No.
right?
Yes, we follow
So
up.
a lot of them are considering what happens next, right?
Yeah.
Is this something that you're also interested in?
Yes, I mean, since I work in this clinic in Spain back then, 2018, they already
Mm-hmm.
were developing their app, and through the app, you were following up on your patients. So the reservations team was following up on them. You were sending them the newsletter, then you will send maybe the diet, or the doctors were always in touch with them, so you don't lose contact. And I think that's one of the biggest gaps in general in healthcare, the follow up. Once they finish a program or something, what is the follow up? How often do you touch base with them again? And that's something that health resource they do pretty well.
It's keeping that motivation going, right?
Correct.
Because we're talking about super smart people here, right?
Yes.
So people that are successful, people that can afford to go to these places, and obviously
Exactly.
they've done, they've achieved things in their lives. But then it always surprises me why smart people still struggle with things such as sleep or managing stress,
Yeah.
some or eating better or drinking less, or not even like in the region here. One of the perhaps the biggest issue is shisha, for example, or the
Overweight.
having smoking shisha. Yeah, so it's everywhere. Most of the people that I work with in the region, be it in Saudi, in Lebanon, in the UAE, etc., that's one of the main pain points. So some people are properly addicted and they don't see it as a direct harm to their health, even though they're kind of aware, but they're still unable to kind of move away from that. But yet, when they travel, they don't miss it. They're not. It's not something that they look for. It's just when they go back into their own environment, then they go back into the same thing. So it always surprises me how super capable individuals are not able to manage the small things that happen in day-to-day life in order to preserve their health and prevent complications in the future.
Yeah.
And that kind of segues really naturally to your expertise in building health care in the GCC. What do we get wrong? What do most brands get wrong when, or they misunderstand, I should say, when they're trying to build something here, right? So the region has attracted so many like top brands in the longevity space. Almost everyone wants to be part of this ecosystem, but I think quite a few of them misunderstand, or they're not prepared to build something here that is customized for our region, basically.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, there are many factors, right? The first one obviously is that when it comes to open something in the GCC, you need to have cultural intelligence. And
Right.
you need to understand cultural nuances. What will be accept? What do you need to make up? You need, because culture can change the perception and the expectations of people, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is not having a clear guest journey that ends up leading them to acquire super expensive technologies, to rent the most expensive clinic, to rent the most expensive, let's say, floor in town, without really understanding, right, the payroll, something as simple as that. Europeans, they are not aware about what the payroll implications in this region. That you need to cover a medical insurance, sometimes you need to cover a house allowance, sometimes a school allowance, like family package and so on. So those things are ignored. And when they come with projections, financial projections is when they fail. So
But also cultural awareness, right?
cultural awareness, I mean, European lifestyle is not the same that the GCC lifestyle. So you also need to understand how much from your methodology and your system will be able to be implemented and successfully executed and sustainable.
And our genes are different, right? So
Exact.
so there are a lot of the studies, a lot of the plans, a lot of the systems are just simply, or the models are simply copied, and they try to implement the same thing that they would do in, I don't know, in Paris or Switzerland or whatever else around the world, and trying to implement it here without any consideration for lifestyle, as you said earlier, for example, the way we spend more time at night rather than, so we, late food, late night, excessive sort of social connections, and so on and so on,
Yeah.
right? So there are these nuances that I think quite a few of these brands are missing, and I mean in your case, one of the focus that you have is women's health, obviously, and I think most women health areas or initiatives are built around disease management, right?
Yeah.
You're moving away, obviously, from that quite aggressively, and more about optimizing performance and healthy aging. So how are you building something in Saudi that is different than a traditional approach to sick care or the traditional healthcare?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question because we're not only baby incubators, right? And I think at some point that is the mindset about what is the meaning of female health in the region. So beyond taking care of the mom to be, we need to understand that hormonal imbalances start from the day we start to having our period, or even before 6 months or 1 year before we're having our period. So we need to be able to navigate all those challenges in the different needs of female health throughout the different stages in life. I'm telling you, as a perimenopausic lady, if I didn't knew or know all the information that I have now in my hands, I would say I'm losing my mind. So
Right.
we honestly, we
Yeah.
need to, and that's how we came to the conclusion of what will be the medical practices that we need in Riyadh, in Saudi, and that's how we come. Okay, we need a clinical psychologist. I remember in my previous roles, one of the things that I have the request from many of the doctors is we need to have a psychologist, Paulina, and that should be like the first consultation. We need to know who are we dealing with. We need to understand who is the person I have in front of me, the environment, because that is the only way that we will be able to be more successful. And in Saudi, 3 times more. Then we
Yeah.
need to have a gynecologist as well, right? We can't
Yeah.
discuss about female health just having a general physician, family medicine. We need a gynecologist. We need someone who really knows about female health.
Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
we need to have family medicine, general practice, or functional medicine doctor, correct? Uh, Myself, I found functional medicine quite interesting and relevant because they are now trained to learn to read between the lines. They are really
Yeah.
trained to be more proactive, preventive, and not being so reactive. Then dermatologists. Dermatologists is important because the way it's the dermatologist will not only help you to improve how you look and but it's also about how you feel about yourself. It's the dermatologist that will understand that the skin is an organ and is the largest organ and is the first one that will show when something is not working properly. So all of that we put together in a pot, and those were the medical practices that we decide that will be part of our ecosystem. We also need to understand, like, okay, how we can cascade this message to the Saudi female audience, because we don't have expat community in Saudi. I mean, at least we don't have as much as the expat community we have here in the UAE. So we're aiming to have 75% or to 80% of locals, Saudi female in our clinic versus expat. So what will be nationality, or what will be the cultural intelligence and the right fit for a clinic that lead us to make the following decision. So psychology, definitely it must be a Saudi. First,
Yeah.
language. Okay,
Hmm.
language communication for a clinical psychologist is paramount. And the second one is
Yeah.
because only a female Saudi will understand another female Saudi and the cultural nuances and the things that they have facing. And believe me, if you have a conversation with our clinical psychologist, it's so enriching. It's one of those conversations that you don't want to end. And then the gynecologist is also Saudi, because when you start having this conversation with these physicians and all the things and challenges and the things that you need to understand to be a successful physician in Saudi, in Riyadh with females, is amazing.
Right, right. And that extends to the same thing for across the GCC, right?
Correct.
And the beautiful thing is that women are starting earlier and earlier. It used to be thought about, only a couple of years ago, that longevity for women meant around menopause.
Yeah.
But now women are starting younger and younger, and even in their 20s, are aware of the journey that the earlier I start, the better life stages I would have across my journey into health.
Look, if we start in
So
menopause, it's late. If you start taking care as a female, once you reach menopause, it's already late. I mean, I'm not saying late, like terrible late, but it's
it's
late
not too
already.
late, but
It's not too late,
it's
but it's
yeah,
60% late,
yeah,
right? I
right,
mean,
right, yeah,
perimenopause plays a key period in females' health for how you will face menopause and the rest of your, let's say, your morbid decade.
your bones, your mental health,
Muscle, mental, your
Mhm.
family, social connections. I mean, I was reading an article the other day that between 45 and 55 is the highest percentage of suicide in female and also the highest percentage of divorce. So we need to
Yeah.
understand what could lead not to be treated properly during this important female stage that is
And
perimenopause.
the complex female societal role, right? The roles that they play across different areas in society, and there's the unbelievable stress that they're under also across different areas, and the pressure that they're under. So you've mentioned mental health quite a few times, and I think that's super important in a longevity aspect, and it's been overlooked quite consistently. As you
Yes.
said earlier, a lot of great toys that are around, great machines that do all sorts of things, and but ultimately, it's what we've said earlier. It's these, small things that happen to you, or the decisions that you make the small micro decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis, that are, that stem from where you are in your mental health, and in where you are in your community, in your family, how you feel about yourself, how much of it is self-sabotage, how much of it is, sort of a self-love, and the ability to take care of yourself in a meaningful way. So you've obviously thought about that in your the endeavor that you're building in Saudi, and I think everyone in the region can benefit from your experience with this. So you put mental health almost at the center of the journey, correct?
Yes, the clinical psychology is involved in the 6 programs that we will offer in Riyadh. Even if it could be one consultation, one follow up, and we have one program that is specific for cognitive and cognitive resilience. That's the name of the program. But psychology and nutrition, both, are in each
Right,
program.
right. And obviously movement and exercise and all of that, right?
Absolutely.
So
I mean, nutrition is linked with the movement pillar. Without movement, we're prescribing movement as medicine.
right, because we're talking about, burnouts, we're talking about cortisol, we're talking about inflammation. All of these are, directly associated with how you are mentally, including recovery, right?
Yeah.
Because, then if your sleep is bad, that means your mental recovery is not where it needs to be, and like it then cascades into other things. So I think the way you're doing it is super important, I think, and I hope that everyone is able to do that in their prospective services that they're trying to offer across the region. Um, Now, let's move on quickly. I don't want to spend too much time on this. I think there's way too much information on this, but AI. Would you be using AI in your facility?
Yes, we will be using AI. Right now, it's very limited. And this is one of the things that I highlight. In terms of systems, we are all falling short. There are some clinics and some institutions that are already betting more on AI. But especially, I think the challenge when it comes to small clinics, not big hospitals or like I don't know, Cleveland Clinic or the Healthy Living Academy and so on, we face the challenge of budget constraint, right? So we need to choose our battles. Definitely, I will use AI. I'm in conversations with a couple of companies that is precisely on how we can track. The information from wearables, the data protection is also a challenging part, especially in Saudi. It's even more complex than here in the UAE. And also to kind of facilitate the doctors, obviously to automatize everything related with patient follow-up messages and that's a pretty basic, but for the doctors also to be able to be more precise, to maybe expedite also their job in terms of creating a medical pathway or a diet or something. So the more we fit the system, the more efficient and faster we will be able to treat patients.
So you're pro having AI in these centers across the world. I mean, not just in our region, obviously.
Yeah.
As part of the development of more preventative approach to health, right?
Yeah. To enrich, I don't think the AI will substitute physicians at all. And look, a couple of minutes ago, I asked my son because I was like, "This is a very good question," like because I mean, if you ask me if I will accept that maybe to speak with a computer, and to have a consultation with a computer, I would say no. I'm a different generation. And then I was thinking, but what will happen with the generation like my son? They're completely disconnected, right? They're all the time like in digital platforms and this. So maybe they will be more, and maybe we will really substitute the physicians for computers. But when I ask him, he say no. He said, depend how serious is my need. I will consider that yes, I will accept a consultation with a computer, or no, I want to see a specialist. So
Wow, that's
yeah,
amazing.
I asked because I was curious.
Yeah. I mean, it's a generation that, there will soon be a generation that all they know is AI.
Yeah,
So it won't be a question if that there's an option of something
yeah,
else. But obviously, I mean, it's growing at such a huge speed that for a lot of us, it's mostly speculation about what the possibilities are next, right?
yeah. But look, at the end, I think we're always, and especially in this region, people is craving for human connection. Right, we
Yeah.
are this is an amazing region because it's very demanding. You're constantly evolving in a very fast pace, but it's also very challenging in terms of keeping social connections, social connectivity. So I think people, and that's my experience with my patients, my customers in previous clinics, is they connect with the physicians, they connect with the people in the clinic, and that's what they come back. That's why they want to feel they want to feel respect. They want to feel that you listen at them, but they also want to be accompanied during their journey. So I don't think that's
Yeah.
something that a robot or a AI will be able to give.
No, a human connection is super
Exactly.
important. Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Completely agree with you. We started the conversation by saying, like in 2015, and this seems like such a long time ago, but
Oh,
it's 10 years ago, right?
yeah.
I mean, it's a now, and
My
then
face
now
don't
when we
lie.
look back, I mean, when we look back to 10 years ago, it seems so like it was so off, right?
Yeah.
Now, what would you like to see in 10 years time for our space? Assuming that you're gonna, continue to grow that market and kind of work in this space. What would you like to see in 10 years time happening to healthcare?
I would really like to see more support from the government in general,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I will give you an example. Schools. Schools, the first thing they should provide in the morning is physical education, right? Make them move, make them socialize.
Nutrition, right?
Nutrition, exactly. I love whenever they say, no, we have a partnership with this canteen and they provide like healthy nutrition. And then you go and see the menu and you want to kill yourself. It's like, what are you talking about? So, but it's not only that. It's also there are many things like and I know the government here is working towards that, but walkable cities. When I moved to Saudi the first time 5 years ago, I gained 7 kg. There was no way for me to walk, even if I wanted.
Yeah.
So that is important working space. We need to make sure. I know that you are right now, your desk is one of those stand up and sit, right?
Yeah.
That should be in every office, right? And there should be like, okay, just the way we have a break for lunch, we should have a break to go and walk. So is the system. I would like to see that all the governmental entities, all the people that somehow is impacting on people's health is really involved. Like you mentioned, the supermarket. The other day I was having a conversation with our clinical nutritionist in Saudi, and she was saying they should forbid these big spectaculars advertising fast food because that influences people. So there's a lot of responsibility that is not only lying in the hands of the longevity clinics, right? It's like a big work that needs to be behind. And I would really love to see the governments more involved and more committed to make this happen, to raise awareness.
That's amazing. I completely agree, and it goes full circle to what we started the conversation with. So I always say that longevity lives outside of the clinic. It's everything else that we do. The clinic is one aspect of that, but everything else. And I think there are a lot of social, governmental, cultural nuances that will contribute to that. Paulina, this is such an interesting conversation. Thank you so much for being here today, and I can't wait to see what you'll do and
Thank
build
you.
next. And I look forward to seeing you in person again soon. Thank you so much for spending the time and being so generous with information and your time. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having
Thanks.
me.
Bye.
Bye bye.